The setting of the realm, introduction to Bunyoro and the king. In those ancient days, when the sun did rise upon the lands of Africa, there lay a kingdom known as Bunyoro. Verily, Bunyoro was a place of hills and rivers, where cattle grazed and spears were forged. And in this kingdom ruled a man called Kabalega, who was king from the year of our Lord 1870 unto 1899, or thereabouts. Kabalega was born of royal blood, son of Kamarasi, and he took the throne when his father passed into the earth. The people of Bunyoro, they called themselves the Bunyoro, and they tilled the soil, herded beasts, and paid homage to their king. In those days, the white men came from across the great sea, men of Britain, with their guns and their papers, and their queen far away. These British sought to claim the lands, to draw lines upon maps, and to make kings bow low. But Kabalega, he was not one to bow. Nay, he stood firm, as a tree rooted deep in the red soil. His palace at Amparo was of reeds and earth, yet strong. And so begins our tale, slow and steady, of defiance most prolonged. 5 to 15, 0, 0. The coming of the British and early encounters. Now let us speak of the British, who sent emissaries and soldiers. In the year 1872, one Sir Samuel Baker arrived, sent by the Egyptian Khedive, but with British ways. Baker built a fort at Masindi, and he claimed the land for his master. Kabalega watched from afar, his warriors ever vigilant. Baker's men fired cannons, and some Bunyoro fell, but Kabalega retreated not. He gathered his spears and his shields, and he harried the foreigners with raids small and persistent. Verily Baker departed after 2 years, weary of the mosquitoes and the unyielding bush. Then came more British, under Gordon and others, but Kabalega paid tribute only in word, not in heart. He traded ivory and slaves for guns, yes, but he bent no knee. In 1878, the Madisque from the north stirred trouble, and Kabalega fought them too, his army scattering like leaves in wind, striking and vanishing. The British, they called him rebel, but Kabalega saw himself guardian of Bunyoro's ancient laws. His court was filled with advisors, Omusaiga, the spirit medium, and warriors trained from youth. Day by day, season by season, he fortified his realm. Roads he blocked with felled trees, rivers he watched with sentinels. Impenetrable, they said, this land of thick forest and hidden paths. 152500, the building of the impenetrable army. Let us now dwell upon the army of Kabalega, which was as a wall of thorns. These were the Amabanga, brave men clad in bark cloth and leopard skins, armed with spears of iron, arrows poisoned with venom, and later, rifles smuggled from Arabs. Each warrior knew the bush as his own hand. They moved silent as shadows at dusk. Training was endless. Boys from 12 summers learned to throw the spear true, to stalk the antelope, to endure hunger and rain. Kabalega himself led drills, his voice commanding, his presence iron. Forts dotted the kingdom, Massa, Kiku, Hoima built of stockade and ditch, hidden in swamps where crocodiles lurked. Sentries in trees signaled with whistles of bone, and ambushes were laid like traps for rats. No army could pierce this. British scouts ventured forth and vanished, their columns bogged in mud, picked off one by one. Kabalega's men fought not in open field like fools, but in skirmish eternal, fire and flee, fire and flee. Impenetrable, verily, for the forest swallowed invaders whole. Cattle provided milk and meat, gardens sustained, and the king's magic charms from Omusaiga warded evil. 25 to 0 to 35, 00. Defiance against the imperial advance, 1,870 seconds, 1,890 seconds. In the year 1891, the Imperial British East Africa Company came bolder, with Captains Lugard and Macdonald. They sought alliance with Buganda, neighbor kingdom, to squeeze Bunyoro. Kabalega refused their paper treaties. He burned their flags and slew their spies. Macdonald marched with Maxim guns, but at Hoima, the Amabanga struck from reeds, felling 20 before dawn. The British retreated, cursing the flies and fever. Year followed year in this manner. Kabalega raided Buganda's borders, stealing cattle as payback. In 1893, Colonel Colville invaded with 1,000, but swamps claimed half to disease, and ambushes the rest. Kabalega's horsemen, rare and swift on imported steeds, charged flanks, then melted away. The king moved his court from hill to hill, always one step ahead. Even when Toro broke away under Kasagama, puppet of British, Kabalega reconquered it thrice, his spears red with blood. Defiance was his creed. "This land is mine by blood of fathers," he proclaimed. The British wrote letters to London, complaining of this savage Impenetrable, but Kabalega endured, his realm a fortress of green. 35 to 0 to 45, 0-0. The Long War and Sieges, 1894 to 1896. Now we enter the heart of the strife, from 1894 onward. Colonel Macdonald returned with artillery, 500 rifles, and Sudanese mercenaries. They burned villages, but Kabalega's folk rebuilt in secret. At Lenga, a great battle, British charged, but Amabanga from pits unleashed arrows like rain. 50 British fell, the rest fled to boats on the Nile. Kabalega countered with night raids, poisoning wells, cutting supply lines stretched thin as thread. His impenetrable host numbered thousands, though none could count true in the bush. Women carried powder, boys spied paths. In 1895, at Dokolo, another clash, guns barked, spears flew, and again the forest claimed victory. British forts rose and fell like sandcastles. Verily, the war dragged, month by month, reign by reign. Kabalega consulted spirits, sacrificed goats, and his magic held the land whole. Impenetrable walls of men and vine repelled all. 45 to 0 to 55, 0-0. The Fall, Exile and Legacy, 1897 to 1901 and beyond. At last, in 1897, the tide turned slow. British under Turner and Avat amassed 3,000, with rocket tubes and steamers on Lake Albert. Kabalega fought valiantly at Muli.